G'day guys and bonjour. My name is Wildkard. European Champions Cup final, Leinster versus Bordeaux Begles. I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot to say about this game. Now, I did watch the semi-final between Leinster and Toulon and Begles versus Bath. Now, in one hand of the semi-final, Begles really got pushed, in my opinion, to almost their limit to beat the Bath in like the last 20 minutes of the game to really like clinch their spot essentially into the final. Whereas on the other side of the table, Leinster played Toulon. I thought that was a pretty lackluster game. Leinster looked like they were dominating, and then only for them to kind of like switch off or play what's called preventative rugby, leading into the final, maybe 20 minutes, and almost choked, and there was basically like one pass from Toulon that could have gone to hand and scored a try and won the game, and it didn't happen, right? It was literally like millimeters for Toulon to pull up the upset against Leinster. So going into this game, I had a lot of confidence in that Begles was gonna beat Leinster in this game, but I did not expect to be this big of a margin. To be really frank with you, the style that Begles play was just, it's just two ends of the spectrum, right? On one side, you've got Leinster, extremely structured, extremely just like uncreative, I would say. Just everything is just completely drilled into the players to the point I'm like scratching my head as to what is Jameson Gibson Park even doing on the field. Like, you're literally seeing, okay, stupid thing that doesn't even make sense from the Leinster rugby, because that's how they taught to play, right? Because that's where you're supposed to do the box kick. Get this, there were times where, there would be a ball that was just outside the Leinster's 22, right? In the middle of the field. And then Gibson Park's like, I want to do a box kick. So he slowly moves the ball, right? Get players to crash the ball towards the sideline and slowly going backwards, yet not quite enough to get into the 22 so that he can just kick the ball out on the full. So he gets it really close to his own 22-meter line, going backwards and getting really like into the train tracks, getting into the 15-meter line near the sideline, right? Like getting the ball from the middle of the field to near the sideline, and then he does the box kick down the field. It's just like, what are you literally put yourself in a worse position to do the box kick, to do anything, and then you decide to do a box kick, and set yourself a box kick in such a situation. It's just like, clearly it's just been drilled into the players that you need to exit the 22 from a box kick, and the best place to do a box kick is you should only do a box kick near the sideline, because that's why it's called a box kick, right? Trying to keep it in the box. So he literally puts the ball from the middle of the field into the box and then kicking it out with a really horrendous angle, right? Like, come on, it's like. And then on the other hand, you look at the Bordeaux does, there's a variety of different kicking options on the field, right? They've got, obviously, out of the nine, Luku is always looking for options, and the main kicker for the field, the playmaker, Jelly Bear, or I don't know, or is it Jelly Bear? I don't know, Jelly Bear, right? The number 10. He has a lot of free range on where he put the kick. The kid, I think he just like, when he gets the ball in midfield, he should just put a big deep kick from the middle of the field, like almost 56 meters, and suddenly you're inside your 22, right? He can just do that, and he can do little chips on the tops, crossfield kicks, and then the ball goes wide to Bielle-Biarrey, who gets the ball. Also another kicking threat. If he doesn't just step you right anyways, it's through straight away. He can just kick the ball down the field, and it's a full race between him and other players. And, there's so many different ways that the Begles can exit, right? I just, like, 3 different positions they can do to exit out of their own half. Whereas, and not only that it's unpredictable, but it gives them so many options and so many ways they can play, and then makes it, difficult for you to defend a lot of these options. Whereas for Leinster, it's just like, yeah, let's set up a box kick. All right, let's see, where's the box? Where's the box that we want to be kicking to, right? It's so stale, so drilled into the players, and then the 2 10s on the field as well. I'm very surprised with the number 10 selection from Leinster. They had Frawley. Is it that? No, what's his name? Frawley to start, and then they had like what? Was it Osborne or whatever to come out? Anyway, let's have a look at the lineup. They had what's his name? Oh yeah, Harry Byrne, and then they had what, Frawley or something to come on. Who was the other guy that came on? Uh, who was it that came on? Yeah, Frawley. So they had Frawley coming on for Byrne, and Prenderghast is sitting on the coaching box. The one guy that has probably that had probably the most creative style of rugby is in your coaching box. I know he hasn't performed. I watched him in the semi-final. His defense was horrendous, right? But the creativity part is not to just be like ignored, right? Your goal is to take him and make him better as a defender, right? You know, teach him how to tackle. Literally your job. The creativity is the part that you really can't teach that easily into the players, whereas teaching them how to be a better tackler and better defender, it's you know, some of you guys might say, oh, we tried for so long, Wildkard hasn't worked. But it's, you know, it's like these are the moments that you needed to put him in out there and really, you know, yeah, I feel like this is where you're supposed to give him the chance to improve and really take a step forward. And they didn't even have him on the bench, and it's just stale, really stale. And when Leinster did get the ball inside the, you know, like a red zone, it's just like, yeah, let's roll a bunch of forwards, crash forward, and if we don't score, oh well. And then because it was so predictable, the Begles defense was able to get the turnovers so easily, right? Because it's just like, yeah, there's another forward's gonna crash. Let's set up someone to pinch that one as soon as we make the tackle. There were so many turnovers inside, you know, the red zone against the Leinster. It was just like, yeah, it's just, you're just putting your hair out if you're the coach watching that stuff. So yeah, it just clearly wasn't even gonna be like, in terms of being, you know, a contest out there from the kicking perspective. Not even close. And also just like the ambition of the two teams as well. The Begles was playing a lot more like heads up rugby, right? Because of so many kicking options they have and so many ways they can manipulate the game. And the pressure they had from the kicking as well is much better. And you know, just Bielle-Biarrey is such a big difference on the field, right? He's such a huge weapon. There were times where, you know, Luku would do a box kick that goes like 50 meters, right? Just way down the field. And then Bielle-Biarrey is already there to challenge the kick. In any other team, you wouldn't have anybody that fast to be able to get there to challenge a box kick that went like 50 meters. And it's a lot of the times, and we've seen this in the Six Nations as well with the French national team, it's just the game is just about setting up Bielle-Biarrey for like a one-on-one somewhere, and he's just going to score because he's so agile and stepping through. And then it's just like, it's just such a huge advantage for the Begles to have Bielle-Biarrey on the field. Just the threat, the steady. Well, he scored 2 tries again, just by stepping through players left and right. It was just insane, this guy Bielle-Biarrey, and I think it's just really unfair to have such a huge advantage on the field for your team, as opposed to the opposite end. You've got, you know, Riku Ioane. I still don't know how Leinster managed to convince him to play winger again, but you can see that he's not as fast. You can see that his defense is not quite there. You know, there was one of the tries was because he got he got baited out too far from his rush defense and wasn't quite fast enough to shut down the wider pass, right? And also the fact that, right, he can't kick, it means that even if you set him up in a one-on-one situation out wide, he's not going to be able to kick the ball down and possess an extra threat like the Bielle-Biarrey done for the French team, right? So yeah, there were so many areas that Leinster just isn't quite there. The kicking, the creativity, the speed out wide, the breakdown, and yeah, this was pretty much over at halftime, to be really frank with you. There was a yellow card to Luku in the second half where there was a head pull. He grabbed, I think it was Joe McCarthy by the collar, but McCarthy had long hair, so he also obviously pinched some of the hair in the process. Yellow card. I thought that was a bit silly because, you know, Carl Dixon should know better than that. Like, it's just common sense. Like, he didn't deliberately try to grab the hair just being like, you know, it's just collateral damage for grabbing him on the collar. But I thought just the penalty would be sufficient, not an actual yellow card for that one. If he had actually just gripped onto the hair, then sure, right? So I thought that was a bit of a you know, Carl Dixon should have done a bit better than that for the yellow. There were a little bit of I don't know if it's just me. It seemed like there was quite a few small knock-ons here and there that's being ignored. by the English referee. So let me know if you saw that. I saw, especially like early in the first half, I thought I saw a couple little knock-ons, and then the referee just like play on. Almost felt like I was watching Super Rugby again there. But second half it got better. Little knock-ons were picked up by the referees. So there was one thing I want to criticize the Beglers is the fact that they played preventative rugby in the second half. They knew they had the game in the bag, and they basically just taken 2 penalties and didn't really try play the same with the same ambition that like they did in the first half. Now it's completely understandable. You could argue that it is smart rugby to be really frank with. They were so far ahead. It's almost no point to keep trying and get yourself injured, right? Because you still got the top 14 coming up. You don't want to get a bunch of injuries and regret putting in too much effort. Regret playing too hard and taking too much risk. But if you wasn't playing against Leinster, if you're playing against another French team, let's say Toulouse or something in the final, in the final, a 20-point difference is only 3 tries. And if you have teams like if you're playing against players like Anton Dupont or something, they could easily score 3 tries in 10 minutes and snatch the win. And if your players are getting into this sort of habit of like switching off or just happy to just kick a bunch of penalties and it's good enough, you might get caught. You might get caught when it's most needed in the most important games. So this could be a bit of a red flag at some point in the future if they get too used to this sort of stuff, especially considering how good you were in the first half. Very easily, instead of being 35 points to 7, you could easily go into the second half with 30 points to 15 and think to yourself, we can just kick a bunch of penalties and win this game 35 points to 15 or 30 points to 15, right? And then suddenly 20 minutes left, they get a couple tries in, and then you're staring down the barrel with 2 minutes left, and if they score one more try, you're gonna lose the game, right? And then suddenly you're not gonna be able to get yourself mentally back into the game anymore because you've switched off. You've switched off for 40 minutes. Now you need to switch back on with 2 minutes left. Otherwise, you're gonna lose the game. Might not be able to do so. So that's one of the things I didn't quite like the way they approached this. I thought they should still stuck to the game plan, right? However you play in the first half, play the same way, and then just instead of just trying to completely switch off. I think that's just, I understand it because of the risk of injuries, but I don't think that's the right way to approach it, to be honest. Outside of that, I thought the scrum was one thing that was really interesting from the Leinster part. The one of the scrums I've noticed, so the scrums was a bit of a iffy at times. Like even from the get-go, it looked like the one of the sides was a bit reluctant to re-engage. So what was happening? I kind of figured out in the second half is the Leinster props, right? Was before the engagement you have to kind of bind, but they wanted to kind of like inch themselves forward a little bit, but instead of just close up the gap and then get penalized for an early engagement, they actually like push the opposition back with their arms stretched out. There was one scrum in the second half was really obvious. They actually pushed back a little bit, so they actually have already like starting to go forward before the engagement by essentially holding the opposition arm's length, and then just kind of like inch themselves, so they're already taking the space up before the engagement. And then when the engagement comes, they actually already passed the halfway point and got in the front foot already. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. I haven't seen that before. To like literally push your opposition back with the arm, held out stiff. But Leinster did that one time at least in this game, and I think they tried to do early in the first half, but didn't work. But it is really interesting how they try to do that, and it did give them a slight, I think, advantage in some of the scrummage in there. Outside of that, for me, there was a lot of familiar faces out there. Obviously got Rico on one side, and on the other side you've got what's his name, the Hurricanes guy. Let's just have a look at him. The Hurricanes guy, what's his name? Riasi? Yeah, is it Riasi? I think his name is Celesi Riasi. Yeah, here it is, 15. Yeah, it's good to see him there. Obviously there's a lot of big big international test players in both teams. But boy, it's good to see some of these guys getting getting a good shot. Riasi winning, in the top team outside of New Zealand. He used to play for the Hurricanes. Really good to see him finding some success overseas there as well. Concerning for us, because more and more players are probably going to go overseas from these sort of, results. But yeah, it is what it is. It's capitalism. You just got to get better at, playing the game of capitalism overall. So with that being said, yep. So yeah, I think that Leinster are probably the one thing that if they wanted to win the URC, they are still the number one team in the URC, just considering how many, international test players they've got in their team. But I do think that the structured rugby, playing against a lesser team, you're gonna get away with just by being better than them in structure. But when you're playing a game that's just as good as you in terms of defense, you have to do something different to unpredictable, right? To break the stalemate, and you just didn't have that like the Begles did to break this through the game. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I do think that Leinster try to push out of the comfort zone a little bit, and as a result, they're actually making more mistakes because they have never been trained to push out of their comfort zone, to push out of that structure. They ended up making more mistakes than they did when they stayed in their comfort zone. So again, I think it's problem issue with the coaching. I think it's an issue with the coaching not really encouraging the players, to get out of the comfort zone more often in training, right? But anyway, then that's the problem because you have such a strong team, so much talent, and your competition often do not rise to your level, right? You basically have a test team out there, and then you can just play some structured rugby and win the game. But when that doesn't work, you just hit a brick wall, right? So yeah, let's have the stats of the game. 19 points to 41, 3 tries to 5, 2 conversions to 5, 2 penalties kicked from Luku. He's a really good goal kicker. One of them was more than 50 out. 67% kick percentage to the 100% for the French side for Luku. Just absolutely outstanding. 489 run meters, right? So Leinster actually had more run meters than the French, especially in the second half. 175 carries to the 111, 7 clean breaks to 9. So yeah, more efficient in their running. 23 defenders beaten to 27. So fewer runs, fewer carries, but more defenders beaten for the Begles. 11 offloads to the 8, and some of the offloads actually led to mistakes for Leinster, so might not be at the actual good stats for them. 222 passes to the 111s, double the number of passes for Leinster. 58% possession and 59% territory. Still got absolutely flogged, boy. Tackles made 131 made, 213 for the Begles. 77% completion rate and 86% for the Begles. Set piece lineouts 18 for Leinster, 11 for the Begles, 95%, 92% completion rate. 4 scrums for Leinster, 9 for the Begles, 100% completion rate for their kicking. 19 kicks from hand for 546 kick meters. That's pretty low. That is extremely low. You absolutely lost the kicking game with these sort of numbers. 31 kicks for the Begles, 977. And it really didn't take much to completely dominate the kicking game for the Begles. 3 retained kicks for the 5. So more kicks were returned as a result for that as well. Rocks, 133 for Leinster, 78 for Begles. 4 lost and 3 for the Begles. Let's see. More success rate, 100% for Leinster, 40% for the Begles. Not really much to say there. Penalties conceded, 6 against Leinster, 8 against the Begles. 2 yellow cards, both of them in the second half. One of them was obviously Luku. I thought it was a bit silly. The second one was a bit silly for the reserve prop, I think it was. Maybe it was a reserve hooker. Number 17, I think, from the Begles as reserve. That's a reserve Lucette prop. It was clear, and they already won the ball in the ruck, and he just dived himself into it to take a free hit. on one of the Leinster guys, and they're just like unnecessary and dangerous, and the referee just sent him off. But he didn't actually make contact to the head, so I thought maybe just a penalty, didn't have to be a yellow card. But I guess World Rugby wants to clamp that down to discourage players from just taking free hits on people in the ruck. I guess that's probably the logic there, but I didn't think that was I didn't think that was worthy of a yellow card, to be really frank with you. Now let's have a look at the scoring and just do a quick recap of the game. So what do we have here? Anyway, so it took about 8 minutes, I think it was. 8 minutes. Do I have a scoring here somewhere? Anyway, so yeah, Leinster actually scored first. They came out with a lot of speed and just power. There was actually some good, like a box kick from what's his name, from Gibson Park to start with, and then Leinster just built all the pressure inside Begles half, and then pound themselves in for the first try for 7 points to nil. 14 minutes, Begles gets himself back with a bit of wide play into the Leinster 22. Lots of piling penalties everywhere. You can see that Leinster wants you to take the penalty goal because they were under the pump. They were giving away so many penalties. The Begles went in for try, looked like into the corner with Cameron Wilkie. His hand touched the line before he grounded the ball, so no try. More penalties given out right in front of the goalpost. Begles taking a tap and go, and the Luku, a few faces later, looked up, no one in front of him, jumps through for the try. 7 points to 7. 17 minutes in the game. Bielle-Biarrey got the ball out wide, kicked the ball down, and it was touched by Hugo Keenan. And then it was a 5-minute scrum for Begles. The ball went out, just deep passes, and Rico tried to run out to shut down the deep, backdoor play, and he couldn't quite get there in time, and the ball got flung out wide. And then try time for Begles, 14 points to 7. 24 minutes into the game, it was just getting a bit too easy. The Begles just pounding a lot of pressure. There was a lot of just like post-contact offloads that's not really shut down at all by Leinster. And because Leinster is so structured, these like weird little pop-offs post-contact starting to catch them off guard. The ball got passed out to the ball was flung out of their hands from Jellybet, and then the ball passed out over the top to Bielle-Biarrey, and then he stepped 2 players, running for the try. Yeah, just absolute athleticism. 21 points to 7. Only 24 minutes on the clock. The 66 minutes in the game, the ball was, again, just lots of chaos in midfield. The ball was like loose on the ground. It was just like kicked through by Pennell, and he recovered the ball, and then he popped it back to Bielle-Biarrey. Bielle-Biarrey ran through, and it was 1-1 against Hugo Keenan. Just stepped him like he's absolutely no one. Try time 7 points to 28 before halftime. 41 minutes. Leinster wants to really grind out something before halftime. They try to run the ball out from inside their own 22. They ran. They got into the Bordeaux half, and it looks like they're starting to get a little bit frustrated and start popping the ball passes and post contact when they probably shouldn't have been. And then sure enough, there was a pass that got intercepted by Moefana, ran 6 meters down the other end, try, halftime score 35 points to 7. Second half, right away, 1 minute in, Luku got sent off for pulling hair. With the play in the bin, Leinster went for a had a penalty, went for the line out. They had more, lots of pick and go, and eventually McCarthy crashed over for the try. 12 points to 35 into the corner. After this, there was a bunch of penalties there was a penalty, I think 50 something meters out for Luku. He kicked this one to tick the scoreboard to 38 points to 12. And then 64 minutes, another penalty, and they were happy to kick another one, another 50 plus kick for Luku, 12 points to 41. And after this, it was just like they pretty much got it in the bag. Leinster's just really trying to do something. There was more penalties, 71 minutes, bunch of tap and go from Leinster, and eventually Robbie Henshaw, short pop to his outside centre, Gary Ringrose, ran through a gap for the try. 19 points to 14, another missed. 19 points to 14. And then 73 minutes, another yellow card for unnecessary clean out against the Bordeaux number 17. But even with a player in the bin, Leinster still could not create enough to break through the defense. And final score 19 points to 41. I think if you're a French fan, it's like one of the easiest wins you probably will ever seen for a final, right? It's just quite crazy. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, and have a good one. Cheers.